All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. We are hopefully not going to be here too long today. Please, I am encouraging you to look at, good morning. I'm encouraging you to look at all of the past day 5. We are in fourth grade readiness. Okay, we're in the fourth grade readiness portion of the 7-day educational informational. As always, please make sure you share this with someone who could benefit from this information. It is full, it is golden, and there really are things that I wish I knew even as a teacher. So you may even want to share this with someone who is a teacher, right? So that you are aware of what even classrooms might need uh, this week for preparation for school and all of that. But more importantly, if you know, have, or love someone in these grades, please feel free to share that with them. All right, today we're talking about fourth grade readiness. So, in full disclosure, fourth grade is my favorite grade to teach. It has always been. I actually think that the only reason why it's my favorite grade is because it is the first grade that I taught full time. So I have a lot of really good memories when it comes to my first fourth grade class and all of that. So I think nostalgia kind of plays a part in why I feel like fourth grade is my favorite grade. Now you will soon find out that sixth grade is not my favorite grade. Um, for many reasons. We'll talk about that because there are some things that you, even as parents, should know in regards to what happens in the sixth grade. It's almost inevitable. Okay. Biological changes are happening, social changes are happening, class changes are happening, things are happening. Okay. So please, if you are in the sixth grade, know someone that's in the sixth grade, please be here for that sixth grade lesson, which will be on Sunday. Sunday? What's the day? Day 5? Okay. Today we're talking about for tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow. Today we're talking about grades 4 and grades 5. Okay. Now I think it is wise if you have a child going into the fourth grade to already begin to talk to them about being in middle school. Okay. They are right there at the middle school mark, and so why not get them in the mindset? All right. So I don't know how your child's school works. However, um, middle school is typically fifth through eighth grade in many schools. Okay. Fourth grade is still considered elementary. But again, because we're forward thinking here, we're going to begin to talk to our fourth grade students as middle school students. Okay. So let's talk about it. So, fourth grade, um, at least in Pennsylvania. All right. So if you have a child in Pennsylvania, yesterday we talked about the introduction to standardized testing, right? Well, today we are going to talk about standardized testing in fourth grade, particularly in Pennsylvania. Okay. So there are two grades in Pennsylvania where students are tested in math, reading, and science. Okay, math, reading, and science. Those two grades are fourth grade and eighth grade. Okay, so in third grade, your child is just starting standardized testing, just getting a feel for what that even means, right? And then in third grade, they do that. And then in fourth grade, they go from a reading PSSA and a math PSSA to a reading, a math, and a science PSSA. All right. So you want to make sure yesterday I gave you some information on where to find the sample tests for PSSAs, right? Let me give you that again, but you can always type in Google PSSA sample test. All right. So it's on the Pennsylvania um, Department of Education website. So it's education.pa.gov. Okay. If you are in another state, you want to look up what your state standardized testing is and see if they have any um, samplers that live online. Okay. PSSA, if you're in Pennsylvania, they do. Okay. So you can even see what a science PSSA looks like for your fourth grade and your eighth grade student. Okay. All right. So fourth grade, let's talk about that. And we're going to talk about fifth grade as well today. We're going to move pretty quickly. I have a house full of children today. And so there's that. Let's move through the fourth grade standards. Again, keep in mind what the anchor standards are for um, for education as far as the Common Core standards are concerned. Okay, remember we have reading, writing, speaking, listening, language. Okay, reading is informational text, literature, foundational skills, writing, speaking, listening, language. Okay, so the reading is broken down into three sections. You have literature, informational text, foundational skills. All right, so your fourth grader really quickly should be able to refer to details and examples in the text when explaining what the text says. Again, here's this word explicitly, okay? And when, here's this word that I mentioned before that you were going to see, inferences. They should be able to infer. What is inferences? It's being able to read between the lines, right? If I come into a room and all of a sudden I go, right? I didn't say anything to anyone, but what you're going to do is you're going to use your schema, your background information about when you've seen this before, where you've seen it before, who you've seen do this before, and what you currently see, right? So somebody who infers well will be able to tell that more than likely I had a pain in my head, or I have a headache, right? Or that something is paining me somewhere, okay? I didn't say it, I didn't speak it, I didn't write it, you inferred it. We make inferences all of the time, okay? So when trying to explain this information about inferences to your child, break it down as reading between the lines. It's not going to be written out there for them, right? They're going to have to look at what's happening in the story, what they know about a time when they've seen, heard, smelled, tasted, whatever in the story, and then draw a conclusion based on that. Okay? Can they determine the theme? Remember, the theme is the lesson, the moral that the author is trying to teach the world about a story, drama, poem. Can they summarize a text? Beginning, middle, end. Okay? Now, in fourth grade, they write it just like that most times, and teachers encourage it. In the beginning of the story, in the middle of the story, at the end of the story. As they begin to get older in grade, it's going to be a more sophisticated way of doing that. You don't say beginning, middle, and end, but you use transition words that will take the reader from one time to another. What are the transition words? Transition words are first, second, last, then, after, finally, right? In conclusion, those are all of the words. Now, in fourth grade, while we're there, you want to also work on having your child master writing 5-paragraph essays. Okay, 5-paragraph essays. So, how I typically teach for my third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders, because the number one question kids have is how many sentences do I have to have in a paragraph? Okay, paragraph can have up to three, well, not up to three sentences or more. I will never teach a child to only write 3 sentences. I'm going to start with 5. Okay. So I personally believe that your third, fourth, and fifth graders should have at least 5 sentences to create a paragraph. Now, once they get to sixth grade, I encourage 6 to 8 sentences. And then from that point, seventh and eighth graders, they write 8 to 10 sentences per paragraph. My personal preference, only because, for the children who are going to move on from here, well, all of them are going to move on to high school, right? High school is going to require more writing than not. It's also for stamina purposes because we want to make sure that when we get to those text-dependent analysis that we talked about yesterday in standardized testing, you want kids to be able to have the stamina enough to write clearly written, appropriate sentences, right, to formulate a paragraph. Okay. So, again, if your child is in third, fourth, or fifth grade, writing a sentence of 5 to 7 sentences, a paragraph, should be your goal. Sixth, seventh, eighth grade, they should be writing 7 to 10 sentences. In sixth, definitely 8 to 10 sentences, seventh and eighth. Okay? So that way, by the time they get to high school, they have a pretty solid paragraph with information, right, that makes sense to the reader. Okay? So 5 paragraph essays sound difficult, but they're not. Why? Because you have an introduction, you have 3 body paragraphs, and you have a conclusion paragraph. Now, I recommend brainwebs first for the 3 body paragraphs. Get the body together first, right? And then you are going to get your introduction together, and then you'll get your conclusion. Okay? All right. So here we go. So we are going to talk about the rest of these. So they should be able to describe in depth a character, setting, or event in a story or drama. Draw on specific details. All right. What are the characters' thoughts, words, actions? Determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in the text. Mythology is also introduced in fourth grade. So Greek mythology might be something that you want to get your child acclimated to. I'm not really a fan of Greek mythology. Most of you could probably tell why, but it's there, right? So they learn about mythology. These are Greek gods and stuff like that. Hercules, all of that stuff. All right, they learn about that. It's introduced in the fourth grade. So there's that. Explain major differences between poems, drama, and prose. Remember, prose is your basic story, okay, that has a narrator. Drama is a play, right? And poems are poems, all right? They should know the differences between lines and stanzas, okay? A line is like a sentence in a paragraph. A stanza is like a paragraph in a story, okay? So a stanza is a group of lines that kind of looks like a paragraph, but is not referred to as paragraph, okay? They should also know words like verse, rhythm, meter, cast of characters, settings, descriptions, dialogue, stage directions, okay? So when they're writing or speaking about a text, they should be able to use and know all of those words. They should be able to compare and contrast. This is the introduction of Venn diagrams. Venn diagrams are those big circles where you put, let's say we did oranges on one side, apples on the other, right? And then in the middle, where those two intersect, is what they both have in common, okay? So in the both section, it would be rounded, fruit, sweet, okay? Healthy would go in the middle. But on the side of the orange, right, we would do color to color. So one would say orange, the other circle would say red. One might say rough material or rough skin, the other might say smooth skin. You see where this, right? See where this is going. So one might say needs to be peeled, the other one does not necessarily need to be peeled, okay? But in the middle is where they would show both. So Venn diagrams are extremely important in the fourth grade. In the fourth grade, they should also know between first and third person narrations, okay? Who's narrating this? Is it the person that is in the story talking, or is this someone else who's telling a story about someone else in the story? Okay? Make connections between the text of a story or drama and the visual or oral presentation of the text. This is where public speaking is also introduced in the fourth grade. So, what does this look like? Oftentimes, I find that parents have just fully accepted that their children just don't like to talk to people, or they're like exceptionally quiet, or right. And I think that's fine, up until you get to a place where now your child has to make an oral presentation, right? And so now it makes it difficult in the school setting because they're embarrassed. They don't want to get out. And don't get me wrong, all students in the fourth grade are embarrassed. And it's funny because they can talk all day long, right? But when they have to actually have the attention on them and everybody is looking for them to present something academic, then all of a sudden people get shy, right? And like, well, you just blurted out all this stuff in class. You ain't have a problem calling him what you called him from across the room. But now, right now, you have to make a presentation on, Harriet Tubman versus Andrew Jackson, which I love doing. I do a debate on that. And now all of a sudden, you're nervous. You've been talking all day. So we get to that point. But you want to start to break your child out of this whole I'm afraid to present thing. Okay, start at home, right? Ask them to do some kind of research, and maybe it's small. Do some kind of research on something and say, okay, now stand in front of me and present it. Talk to them about sitting up straight, standing up straight, directing their voices. One of the things I teach when we're dealing with oral presentations is a lot of times, especially at this grade, they're reading off of something. So what happens is they direct their head down, and so their voices are going down, and their voices are not projected here. So you may want to encourage them to put it on a podium, or if they're going to hold it out so that their voice is projected out. Okay, because kids become frustrated when they know they're saying something and no one can hear them, right? But if we teach them at home, okay, present this to me. It may be something like, you don't even have to have them write anything. You might say to them, hey, I just happen to have some communion cups here, so I'll use this. Stand in front of me and tell me about this communion cup. Okay, that's it. That's all you want me to do? Yeah. I just want you to use your senses, right? I want you to use who, what, when, where, why, how, and your five senses. You want to write a really dope writing project? You use who, what, when, where, why, how. What is it? I always trust me, I know my five senses, but once I get to naming them all, I'll be like, which one? It's like the seven dwarfs. Like, which one did I miss? Dopey, happy, which one? Lumpy, but ain't even no lumpy. I be making stuff up. But sight, sound, taste, right? All them things. Okay. You want to make sure you use all of that. So what we're doing is we're teaching them oral presentation skills. We're also teaching them how to give vivid details. Are your details and your descriptions clear? Right? A really dope for my teachers on here, a really, really, really dope exercise to do with your class when you want to write. Okay, I'm gonna show you. Get some Oreos, right? Give each child an Oreo in a piece of paper. Don't say anything. Just tell them they can't eat it though. They can touch it, but they can't bite into it. And give them a piece of paper and ask them to describe the Oreo. You can do this at home too. This is a great exercise actually. Ask them to describe the Oreo. Okay? Now, kids are not going to readily use all the things that I said you should use for the writing piece. They're going to look at that cookie and be like, it's a cookie. They literally are going to be like, it's a cookie. They're going to write it down. They're going to be like, ta-da! I'm done. And you're going to walk around and say, that's not all it is. And they're going to swear that's all it is. It's a cookie, Mom. It's Oreos. We've had them for years, right? They're going to get like really indignant about the fact that you're crazy and old and they know more than you. And what you want to do is kind of encourage them now to use their senses. Oh, you ain't say all that, right? So it's more than a cookie, right? What does it sound like? So kids are going to pick it up. They're going to be like, it doesn't have a sound. Okay, write that down. What does it feel like? Oh, well, it is kind of rough. Is it all the way rough? Yeah, it's all the way rough. Open it up. Oh, the cream is not rough. So it's rough on the outside, smooth on the in. You see what we're doing here? So we're starting to pull information from this one thing that you thought was only a cookie. Now I'm going to talk about what it tastes like. Oh, this is where, and I save the taste to the end, of course, because by the time you eat it all up, we ain't got that, right? So what does it feel like? What does it sound like? And some kids will be like, well, it doesn't make a sound when I pick it up to my ear, but if I dropped it on the floor, see what we're doing there? Now we're pulling information out from our students and getting them to see that even in a text, there's way more to it, right? Than what you so now they're going to remember this Oreo exercise, and they're going to remember that they do know how to pull other things out, and it must be there, right? Because I looked at this cookie and I thought this is all it was, but no, there's more to it. Okay, so we want to make sure that they have oral presentation skills. So you should be working on this in the third grade, so that by the time they get to the fourth grade, we're not dealing with I'm shy, I'm scared. Okay, now they still might, because now they're in front of their peers. Your children are going to be way more comfortable at home in front of you and their brothers and sisters than they are in front of the classroom bully, the most popular girl in the class, and the cutest boy. Right? So let's be real. Like they're still going to have a level of anxiety, but they would be more comfortable at least being able to focus on something. Okay. All right. Identify where each version reflects specific descriptions, blah, blah, blah. Compare and contrast the treatment of similar themes and topics. All right. Is it the opposition of good and evil? What are the patterns of events in the story? Right? Again, they should know what myths are. And also, Greek mythology is introduced in the fourth grade. Okay? By the end of the year, they should be able to read 4 to 5. Now, remember, in third grade, it was 2 to 3, right? Text. Now, what is this called? I was thinking about it last night. I want to give you the proper definition. So, I told you about ReadWorks, right? Okay. You can go into ReadWorks and you can check off specific boxes, right? So they have fiction, nonfiction, poetry, I don't know, whatever else. But there is a section where you can pick paired text. Okay, I am encouraging you, strongly encouraging you to use paired text when you are working with your children. What is a paired text? A paired text is two different stories that have some similarities and some contrasting things about the story. Okay, paired texts give students the opportunity to answer questions about each text and then synthesize the information to answer questions that are about both texts. Okay, so it might say in the story of this and the story of that, the father went to war. What was the difference between Tommy's reaction when his dad went to war and Mary's reaction when her father went to war? Okay, you have to take those two individual texts, compare and contrast, right? Those two things according to the subject. Sometimes they have the same subject, sometimes they have the same theme, sometimes they have opposite themes, right? But your child is going to have to be able to look at those independently, synthesize the information to answer questions about two different things. So, what does this look like at home? I'm trying to help you out because I'm going to tell you, God bless these parents that got all these workbooks and chalkboards and stuff. I'm not that good, y'all. I'm not gifted. I got a sneak education into my child. Y'all good. Y'all real good. So for me, if you're anything like me, I would sneak something in. All right, something silly, right? I'm just using this because I'm at my desk with all my supplies in it. But I might say, okay, here are 2 cards. Right? Tell me something similar about these 2 cards. Right? So you might say, okay, one says say, one says is. Okay, they're both one syllable words. Beautiful. What else do they have in common? Well, they both have an S. Okay, cool. What else is in common? Well, they're both on a blue card. That's good. What else is in common? Oh, the letters for both of these are black. Okay, great. Right? Now, talk to me about them individually. This one has 2 letters. This one has 3 letters. Okay, what else? This one has an I. This one does not have an I, right? This one has an A. This one does not have it. Okay, you see what I'm doing here? So before you even get to the text, you want to look at objects and have your child tell you things, and this will work for your Venn diagram as well. But tell me the things that are independent, right, and specific to one, and specific to this one, and then tell me about both of them, right? So now what they're going to do is they're synthesizing information. They're able to look at them independently and then bring everything together to give you information about both. Okay? So before you get to the text, you can do this while you're at dinner. You could do this after church. Like you can do this on in the car when you're playing. My son plays I Spy with my little eye. It drives me absolutely crazy, but I play it 100% of the time. Okay, but you can use that as okay. What are the differences, similarities, blah blah blah. All right, you getting something from this? Okay, cool. So that was fourth grade. Let me talk to you about fifth grade. Let's look at some similarities and differences here. So in the fifth grade Common Core standards, you're going to see things like quotes. Okay, so let's go back to fourth grade. So the first one for key details for fourth grade was refer to details and examples. By grade 5, it says quote accurately from a text. What does that mean? Thank you for asking. This means that your child is going to begin their writing by using words like in the passage it states, in the story of the three little pigs, it states. Now, what does this do? It gives your child the license to steal, for lack of a better word, but take. But I want you to know how deep this taking is. It's like literally stealing it, right? But it gives them permission to lift information from a text and plop it right into their story. Okay, so in the text it says they literally are copying and pasting, boom, right into their text. Okay, can they quote accurately from a text? So there's a difference between just taking information from a text and putting it in there and giving the story credit, right, for what you took from the text. So by fifth grade, your child should be able to do that well, to quote accurately. What is accuracy? You got to take the whole thing. You can't stop before the comma and leave, right? Because the comma makes the rest of that part of that sentence switch a lot of times. So if you're going to take information, you got to take all of it. So if you only take part of it, that's not quoting it accurately. Right? That's like me saying, "Oh, I don't like Bob." And people, "Ooh, guess what she said, girl? She said she don't like Bob." And you go to Bob at your workplace, but the rest of that was Marley. Music. Right? Like, dog, you can't just go tell Bob I don't like Bob. You didn't take the whole thing, so you didn't quote me accurately. I didn't say I didn't like Bob. I said I don't like Bob Marley music. You see the difference? So now you done started a ruckus somewhere. It's the same is true with writing. Now you done started something that wasn't in the text. You got to take the whole role, right? You got to take the whole thing. More importantly, if you're going to do it accurately, you've got to give credit, because otherwise it's plagiarism. Do you know that if you are in college, in some high schools, if you are found guilty of academic plagiarism, they will kick you out? Why? So teach our kids now, we're not just taking information without giving credit to the text. All you got to do is give credit to it. To me, you sound more intelligent because you actually research information from a given text. I'd be sitting there like, I know you ain't write this. You see what I'm saying? Like, I know you didn't write that. Just give credit to the text. Just have academic integrity, right? So use that language with your child, right? You want to make sure you always have academic integrity. So when you quote or take information from a text, you want to give credit to that text, okay? Determine the theme. I told you, ELA, you're going to hear the same things. I don't even really need to go over the rest of it because it's just going to build and build and build and build and build, right? On all of the stuff in the fifth grade is literally like what you saw in the fourth grade, except for being able to quote things accurately. Okay. Now, there is a visual and multimedia component to the fifth grade. Okay. Visual and multimedia elements, how do they contribute to the meaning, the tone, the beauty, or the text? So what does this sound like? This is going to sound like a question might be, what is the difference between watching this story in a movie and reading it in a chapter book? Right? What's the difference? Well, more than likely the answer is going to be you can visually see how this is playing out. Whereas if you read it in a chapter book, you have to imagine, right, what is actually happening. What do these characters look like, blah, blah, blah. Well, now that I watched the movie, though, I have a better description and understanding of what this house looked like, what the dog looked like. I thought the dog was black. The dog was white. I thought the man was black. The man was white, right? Like, it gives you a better appreciation for it. Now, it depends, though, because some books are better than movies, right? So you'll have some kids who will be like, well, I actually like the book better than the movie. And I'm going to be honest, most books are better than the movie, honestly, because there's something about your imagination, right, that makes it super dope, because you got these characters that kind of live in your mind, right, through the entirety of this chapter reading. And so then when you see it, sometimes you're disappointed, like, that was whack. I thought he was cuter than that. He wasn't even that cute. We do stuff like that, but your kids should be able to know how to look at visual and multimedia elements and compare and contrast them to an actual book, graphic novel, right? Something like that. Okay? Fourth and fifth grade ELA. Reworks, all that stuff works. Remember, fourth grade in a lot of states, fourth and eighth grade go through 3 standardized testing. They do math, reading, and science. Okay? In fifth grade, they go back to math and reading. Sixth grade, math and reading. Seventh grade, math and reading. Eighth grade, math, reading, and science. Okay? Again, whatever state you're in, go ahead and find the sample test for that. Let's do math real quick, and then I'm going to take my son and his friend who are here all day long. Boys, third graders. Fourth grade. What should your child be able to do? in the fourth grade. Okay. Again, I'm only going over operations and algebraic thinking. Keep in mind that fifth grade, that the Common Core standards are broken down in math, operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operation in base 10, numbers and operation fractions, measurement and data, and geometry. Okay. I'm only going over operations and algebraic thinking because if I went over all of them, child, we'd be here from now till Christmas. No, I know you don't want to do that. All right. So, can your child interpret a multiplication equation as a comparison? 35 equals 5 times 7 as a statement. 35 is 5 times as many as 7. Mathematical language is super important. Whenever you see is, it means equal, right? If you see all together, a lot of times that means adding. If you see share, that means division. If you see a multiplication sign, it's as many times as. All right, so 5 times as many as 7, right? And 7 times as many as 5 equals 35. Okay, so can they represent verbal statements of multiplicative comparisons as multiplication equations? Whoa, right? So the language is like, dog, what you talking about, right? Can they multiply or divide to solve word problems? Word problems, word problems, word problems. I talked to you in kindergarten about the importance of reading because math by the fourth grade becomes words. Okay, words. So if your kid hates reading in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, they're going to have a problem in math in fourth grade. So help them to develop a love and appreciation, even if they don't love it. Help them to appreciate reading now because ultimately it's going to affect their ability to complete math problems later. Okay? Can they solve multi-step word problems? Now, multi-step word problems might mean you have to add, subtract, and divide in this word problem. Can they do that? How do you prepare your child to be able to do that? Can your child follow multi-step directions? Try it. Say, hey, I need you to come bring me my phone, my keys, my wallet, and turn the TV off before you come upstairs. You want to help them solve multi-step problems? Give them multi-step directions in your house. If you find that they only brought you the keys, they done left the phone, they done left the wallet, and you hear the TV on, you might want to have some drills in your own home about how they can follow multi-step directions because that's essentially what word problems are when you're dealing with multi-step. They're multi-step directions. But if your child struggles at home with multi-step directions, they're going to struggle in school with reading multi-step. You see what I'm saying? So try these things. You probably know right now whether or not you give your children direction and they don't follow through with all of it. Okay? So you want to prepare them? Do that. All right? Multi-step word problems is a real big deal in fourth grade. Okay? Can they find factor pairs? What is a factor? They're the numbers that you use to multiply together to get another number. Right? Can they find all of the factor pairs for a whole number from 1 to 100? Do they recognize that a whole number is a multiple of each of its factors? Can they determine whether a given whole number is in the range of 1 to 100? Okay? Can they generate a number shape pattern that follows a given rule? These are in and out tables, function tables, right? Given x and y, what is the rule? So let's say, for example, I had 1, 4 in one row, 2, 8, 3, 12. I should be able to tell that the rule is multiplied by 4. 1 and 4, 1 times 4 is 4. 2, 8, 2 times 4 is 8. 3, 12, 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, they're called function tables. I like function tables. I think they're fun. But once you get to 7th and 8th grade, the functions are different. The rule might be add 3, subtract 1. It gets trickier. So all of this stuff, and this is why the foundation is so important, because if there are cracks in the foundation, your child will fail. They will fail. Not might, they will. Anything you build on a cracked foundation, even if that foundation takes a long time to go under, they will fail. Your child might breeze through the 8th grade. They might even make it all the way through high school. But once they get that job, it's going to come out. That thing going to come out. All right. So make sure the foundation is straight. All right. So these are some things you can do at home, some things you can do at school. Let's do the final one and then we're out of here. Okay. Grade 5. Grade 5. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. PEMDAS, PEMDAS, also known as the Order of Operations acronym. Okay? Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. PEMDAS. Okay? It's introduced in the 5th grade. Can your child use parentheses, brackets, braces, and numerical expressions and evaluate expressions with these symbols? So a lot of times we see this on Facebook, right? They'll ask something like, what is 18,932 times 3 divided by 4 plus 2? And then everybody will have like all of these answers. And somebody always in those answers says, but you're missing the order of operations, says PEMDAS. That's what they're talking about. There's an order with which you have to calculate numbers that are in brackets. They have exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay? There's an order that you do that. So there's that. Can they write simple expressions that record calculations with numbers and interpret numerical expressions? So for example, can they express the calculation add 8 and 7, then multiply 2 as 2 times 8 plus 7 in the parentheses? Find out. Do they recognize that 3 times in parentheses 18,932 plus 921 is the same as 3 times what's in that parentheses? Or are they doing 3 times 18,932, getting that, and then adding 921 to it? Because if they're doing that, they're not following order of operations. Because the order of operations says whatever's in the parentheses is what you have to calculate first. Whoa! It's a lot. Finally, can they generate 2 numerical patterns using 2 given rules? Okay, for example, given the rule add 3 and the starting number 0, and given the rule add 6 and the starting number 0, can they generate terms and the resulting sequences, and are they able to observe that the terms in one sequence are twice the corresponding terms in the other? Adults right now have headaches. You're like, what are you talking about? Write this down. Give me a map. Give me something. What you can't do is use all these big words and think I know what you're talking about. Okay? But here's the good news. CommonCoreSheets.com has all of these standards, already have worksheets and answer sheets for you. Okay? Listen, I pray that you receive something today for 4th and 5th grade. Tomorrow we will talk about 6th through 8th. And finally on Sunday, if there are any questions that you have for me, please, I'm going to take some questions and answers and teach you a few different things that I think are helpful for you to be able to do to establish a home and school relationship between you and your school. Now, put some things in place. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff on Sunday. And my prayer is that you receive something and that you'll share this with someone you love. All right? I'll talk to you soon. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great Friday.